And in Exodus 7, verses 11 through 12, if you remember the storyline, with Moses and the Pharaoh, the ancient magicians and sorcerers of Egypt during Moses' times were also able to make their rods turn into serpents. But it was Aaron's rod that turned into a serpent as well and devoured all of the other Egyptian magicians' rods that had turned into serpents. The Egyptian magicians during that time also turned the water from the Nile River into blood. You know, everything that Aaron was doing, they said, well, we can, Pharaoh said, well, my witches and sorcerers and wizards can do the same thing. And they went ahead and they threw their staff down, staff turned to a snake, they touched the water with their staff, the water turned blood. They were doing all types of stuff, just like what Aaron was doing. But of course, we know in the Bible story, Moses and Aaron had the last say, because once the Most High hit him with all those plagues, the Pharaoh, they just couldn't take it anymore. So this is how we know black magic and sorcery and witchcraft and Satanism are real. And we know that it's not just, just show like David Copperfield. There's people out here who really know how to do magic and sorcery and witchcraft. And if the ancient Egyptians harnessed this power using, the evil forces of Satan, and we know that the Hebrew Israelites were delivered from Pharaoh and his Egyptian and the Egyptians and the magicians, then we know that the God of Moses, Abraham, and Noah, and the prophets and the children of Israel had to be the true God, because they were able to overcome and defeat the Pharaoh and his evil magical powers as well. That's very interesting when we think about that. Now here we have the secrets again of the Golden Dawn Temple, and as you can see here, we have the cross, different colors with the rosy cross in the middle with a whole bunch of Hebrew symbols. And we have the pentagram, and as you can see at the top, you see more of the symbols of the planetary bodies, like Saturn and Venus and Mercury and the moon. This is all pagan idolatry worship being used in these occult societies. And of course, all pagan idolatry worship basically has its roots with the demonic forces and Satan. And as we showed you earlier, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, you can see it very clear right here in the whole outfit that Sierra has on. Now you got to remember, Sierra probably didn't grow up, and her parents didn't probably grow up, in the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Now the people that are behind the music industry doing these videos probably told her to put on this jacket. Most black people do not know about the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and I'm sure most black families are not raised up in the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. This is all stuff that she has came into in the industry, and we all know that black people do not run the industry, the music industry, the movie industry. We're not the ones We're not the ones CEOs of these music labels. Here again, we see like I showed you, the Baphomet figure with the same serpent intertwined along the staff, which is a medical symbol today, ironically. And we see the Baphomet character again, this time with the picture with the Knights Templar at the bottom, with the cross, and the Baphomet is floating in the air. And as you can see at the top, it says initiation into the 18th degree of Freemasonry. Now the question is, why is this guy, the Baphomet figure, in this picture talking about an initiation into 18th degree Freemasonry? It's really interesting. And here we see Aleister Crowley in his young days. He was a Freemason, he was a Jesuit, and he was a Satanist. He's also bisexual as well. And here he is with the Rosicrucian cross, with the rosy cross with the rose in the middle of it, and he has a serpent's crown on, just like the ancient Egyptians. Now, King James, a lot of people, when they read our King James Authorized Bible, they don't know who King James was. A lot of people don't do the research on the life of King James, but King James was the king of Scotland and the first Stuart king of England. So he was ruling over Scotland and England. He was also a Freemason. Freemasons, here we see the symbol of the 33 degree in the triangle with the double-headed eagle. And we see here, we see the 33 inside the triangle and inside the circle. Now, people say, well, no, King James wasn't a Freemason, but yes, he was. Now, if you look in the west wall of the Lodge Hall used by Lodge School in Perth, number 3, in Perth, Scotland, you can find a mural depicting King James kneeling at their altar at his initiation ceremony into Scottish Rite Freemasonry. The oldest existing record of the lodge, called the Mutual Agreement of December 24th, 1658, records that King James was entered Freemason and Fellow Craft of the Lodge of Scone in April 15, 1601. So this is proof that King James was a Freemason, along with a lot of people say the co-author of the Bible, Sir Francis Bacon. Sir Francis Bacon and Freemason were also good friends with Shakespeare. And it's ironic how the Bible, when we read the Bible, it kind of sounds like how Shakespeare and people back in those days used to talk, with thou shalt and thou art and different things. And so, we don't really know how, I'm sure 2,000, 3,000 years ago, they didn't say thou shalt and does it be and the same type of lingo that they spoke in England. But that's, of course, they translated our Bible, and therefore that's what we have to read. And Sir Francis Bacon was also a Rosicrucian, just like Aleister Crowley. In the King James Bible of 1611, we're going to show you the influence of Freemasonry in the initial King James Bible. Here we see the family tree of Adam and Eve, going all the way down to Noah. And as you can see, we all know that Cain killed Abel. So as you can see here, Abel's tree stops at him. And we know that Cain was banished, and God put a mark on his head. And Cain has his own line over here, and then Seth has his other line. And from the seed of Seth came Noah. And then from Noah came Ham, Shem, and Japheth. But interesting enough, if you look at the family tree line of Cain, you will see in certain areas, you'll see the Freemason handshake between different children. And if you look at the family tree in the King James Bible 1611 of King David, according to St. Luke and St. Matthew, as you can see, of course, we know that Nathan can be traced, and King David can be traced all the way down to Jesus' lineage by way of Joseph and Mary, his parents. But when you look at King David, son Solomon, because King David had kids with Bathsheba. One of them was King Solomon, one of them was Nathan. And Solomon's lineage starts with the Freemason handshakes when it's connected to the Pharaoh's daughter of Egypt. And we all know that Egypt is viewed very highly in the Freemason religion, and the building of Solomon's temple with Hiram Abiff. I'll talk about that later. And so as you can see down the tree, a family tree with King Solomon, not Nathan, along Jesus' lineage, you will see all these Freemason handshakes. Just going down the line, just going all the way down. And that's very interesting because you do not see that along the tree line that's leading to the bloodline of Jesus. Now, in the previous slide, it shows the lineage of King David and his children, first from King Solomon and second from Nathan. Because in Matthew 1, verses 1 through 16, is traced to King Solomon and then from King David. However, in Luke 3:23-38, Jesus' lineage is traced to Nathan by way of King David. They both go from King David to Joseph, who was Jesus' earthly father, but they have different names. So, since King David is very important to the Kabbalists, Kabbalists and Rosicrucians, the cultist world naturally claims that many links to King David's family tree. And this could be seen with some of the major huge family bloodlines that they supposedly can trace back to King David, and these royal bloodlines are linked to Europe and the royal family in England. But like I was showing you earlier, you notice the Masonic handshakes along King David and King Solomon's family tree line, and King Solomon was, I guess, depicted here as in this picture as a Freemason. Maybe he learned it from the daughter of the Pharaoh. And from King Solomon, Masonry spun the myth about the Masonic Messiah-type figure of the Freemasons, Hiram Abiff. And Hiram Abiff is also known by the Freemasons. Hiram Abiff was supposedly the person that helped build Solomon's temple. He constructed it, was the chief architect and the master of the works at the construction of the temple. But in the story of Hiram Abiff, 3 of the fellow Masons wanted to learn the secrets of a master Mason, because Hiram Abiff was the master Mason. And of course, he wouldn't tell them the secrets, and they decided to kill him, which they did. And when they killed him, they buried him under a pile of rubble. And they buried him, and they put some acacia leaves on top of the area where they buried him. And supposedly, from the story, from the Freemasons, when the next day when they came in to look for his body, and Solomon couldn't find him, he sent out some more Freemasons to search for him. But instead of finding his body, first they found loose acacia leaves were discovered, and they kind of put 2 and 2 together, and realized that possibly he was dead and they had buried his body. And it's ironic that the acacia leaves is also on the United Nations symbol, which the United Nations was founded by European Jews. Now, in the King James Bible 1611, when you look at it, the letter G on the symbol for Freemasonry was superimposed in the book of Hebrews. If you look real here close, you can see the letter G superimposed in the book of Hebrews, and you can see the demonic Baphomet figure also inside the G and above the G. And when we look at the King James Bible of 1611, we also see that back then in those days, there was no letter J. The letter J did not exist. So the book of Job was the book of Eob. And the book of Jonah was Eona. And the book of Paul, since there wasn't no U, well, the U was replaced by the V, because the V made the U sound. We have the book of, if you pronounce it the way it looks, you pronounce it Pavel. The epistle of Pavel, an apostle to the Romans, or the book of Paul. And as you can see here on the cover, part of the New Testament, you will see that the New Testament of the Lord Jesus Christ, if you read it how you see it. Now, back then, there was no J, so the I was in place of the J, and before that it was a Y, and the U was replaced by the V. Holy Bible, when he was printing it up, it had the Freemason sign on it. Now let's go and talk about Kabbalistic signatures of numerology, number 13, and how the number 13th is used. It's all over our dollar bill. Nobody likes the Friday the 13th. Nobody likes to stay on the hotel, the 13th floor. I don't even think you can get a room on the 13th floor. I think that it's just a dummy number. But it's a lot of 13s going on. And, all I can understand is that they use these numbers for a reason. And 911, that number was that date was selected for a reason. Just as the Pope was made Pope of the Catholic Church, Pope Francisco, on March the 13th, 2013. On March the 13th, 2013, if you add up the numbers, 3 plus 1 plus 3 plus 2 plus 0 plus 1 plus 3 equals 13. And a lot of people didn't pay attention that when Pope Benedictine officially resigned, it was February 28th, 2013. And when he resigned, 13 days later was when Pope Francisco was elected Pope. And when he was elected Pope, and when you see the black smoke turn white in the Vatican, the moment that it appeared on the screen, on the TV screen, the time was 7:06 p.m. And 7 plus 6 equals 13. Now, another way of saying 7:06 p.m. is saying 66 minutes past 6. Nobody pays attention to these things. And, a lot of people were talking about this, the people that kind of like are real deep into this, and they were, talking about the Malachi prophecy and Peter the Roman and the last pope, the 112th pope, and the biblical false prophet, which is it's really interesting when you really pay attention and listen to it. Now, Seventh-day Adventist Church uses symbolism of the number 13 in their rituals. Seventh-day Adventists, they worship on the Sabbath, just like Judaism. Seventh-day Adventists is a new denomination that was created by, of course, the Freemasons. We love the Freemasons, but the Jehovah's Witnesses was also created by the Freemasons as well. And so the Seventh-day Adventist global structure is organized in the 13 world divisions. There's 13 world divisions. And then the backbone of the doctrine is centralized in a code of 13 baptismal vows that are essential in the initiation of the new member. So when you become a new member, you gotta do 13 vows. And I don't know about you, but when most black people that grow up in the Christian church, when they go to church, they don't have to give vows. Especially, you gotta give 13 vows. That's the kind of things you do in occult secret societies. You start giving vows and oaths. It's like when you go to court. And the most special service is always held on the last Sabbath of the quarter, the 13th Sabbath, where a special offering is collected for one of the 13th administrative world regions, Now, during the 13th Sabbath program, youngsters may present a music or a special drama based on the subject learned during that quarter. They explain the traditions and dress in the attire of the countries or world regions which offerings collected will benefit. Communion service preceded by foot washing may coincide also on the right after such a date. And the Jehovah's Witnesses kind of do the same thing too. Like they have like their message is like they're told a message that everybody has to speak. So everybody kind of gets the same message no matter where you are, no matter what kingdom hall you're at. Everybody gets kind of the same message, and you have a certain time out of the year where everybody is a universal message. Like it's like everybody knows what the message is going to be. It's not like the average Christian pastor, black pastor that studies a scripture or a book of the Bible and say, okay, at Sunday service, I'm going to teach about this. This is what came to my head. This is what God put in me. I'm going to teach about this. It's random. Nobody knows in the church what the pastor is going to speak about because it's coming from him, inspired by God, supposedly. So, but in these religions, things are kind of set up in an organized fashion. And here we see here also in Judaism, the 13 foundations of Judaism by Kabbalist Rabbi Moses Maimonides. And then you can see also, in comparison, the Mormon 13 Articles of Faith. Joseph Smith. 13 Articles of Faith right here. Why do they use the number 13? 13 has never been a significant number in the Bible. It's usually 7 or 12 or 40. 40 days on the Noah's Ark, and Jesus fasted 40 days and 40 nights, and the 12 disciples, the 12 children of Israel. 7 is the number of completion. 13 was never in there. 13 is the number used in the Satanist demonic occult world. Now, the Freemason influence also, the pyramid structure is also seen in a lot of these religions too, if you really pay attention. And the pyramid structure represents the secret societies operating on every continent and above the whole world, dominating it. Some say It's overshadowing it and owning it. But believe it or not, Freemasonry controls, in Judaism, controls many of the so-called Christian or Protestant denominations. They've infiltrated the Christian church. And this is why we see the founders of these institutions, such as the Seventh-day Adventists, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Mormons, were all Freemasons. And they were not black Freemasons, they were white Freemasons. And today, these supposedly Christian institutions use all the Masonic symbols like pyramids, all-seeing eyes, obelisks, Asherah, poles, whatever you want to call them. And these symbols mark the institution and reveal to those who can see, a lot of people are not seeing what's going on, who really is in control. And remember, like I was saying before, symbols reveal and symbols also conceal. And as you can see here, these are some of the logos of the Seventh-day Adventists and some books. And you can see there's pyramids all over the place. Pyramids all over the place. Sometimes with almost like an underlying all-seeing eye, similar to the all-seeing eye and the triangles that people are now seeing associated with the Illuminati. Here we see James and Ellen White, Freemasons, founder of the Seventh-day Adventists, 1874. It's a picture called The Way of Life, and as you can see here in the picture, you see Jesus on the cross. You see 12 disciples sitting over, Jesus and 12 disciples sitting over here, and you see a tree and a little eye in the middle of the tree. The eye is just looking at you, and you see a little angel over here, and you see some more people, and you don't see any black people. It's all white people. Because back in those days, they designed for us to be in any of these religions. Even the Watchtower Society was not designed for black people to be in. And here we see here in the Kabbalah, the triangle and the Goetia circle was used for the invocations of demons, demonology. And as you can see here in this circle, this Goetia circle, you see the serpent, this intercoiled in a circle fashion, and inside you see a whole bunch of hexagrams. And if you do a close-up, you can see the serpent right here with Hebrew letters on it. And the Goetia circle also goes back to the Seal of Solomon and King Solomon and the conjuring up of 17 demons that all had names. And each one of these demons, if you conjure them up and controlled them, of course you could get something out of it. And that's the whole basis of satanic rituals and the Wicca religion and the sorcery and the black magic. Now the symbol, the Kabbalion, also has this circle with the triangle inside of it. In the Hermetic philosophy of ancient Egypt and Greece, Hermes was the god of speech. And it talks about this in Acts 14, verses 8 through 13. They thought that Barnabas and Paul were gods come down in human form. They called Barnabas Zeus, and they called Paul Hermes. And that's interesting if you really pay attention to that. So, like I was talking about how Judaism and Freemasons are intertwined and infiltrating into Christianity, in the Bible it talks about this. It talks about, back then they were, Jewish, they were Pharisees, the Sadducees, giving rise to what we now know as the rabbis in Judaism. But, in Titus it talks about, not giving heed to these commandments of men that will infiltrate the religion of Christ. So in Titus 1, verse 10 to 16, it says that, for there are many unruly and vain talkers and deceivers. So you all know who deceivers are, especially they of the circumcision. So there are many people that are unruly and vain talkers and deceivers. Deceivers means to trick you. And they also practice circumcision, because back in those days, if you were in the Judaism religion, if you practiced Judaism, which was the religion of the Pharisees, you had to get circumcised. Just like in the ancient books of the Bible, the Torah, it said that you had to get circumcised on the 8th day. So they had some used some of the traditions that God had told Moses, so they were circumcised. And it didn't matter if you was a Roman or Greek or Assyrian or Babylon, or Edomite. If you converted to Judaism, you got circumcised. But that didn't mean that you were following the right God. Now it says that these people whose mouths must be stopped, who subvert whole houses, teaching things which they ought not, for filthy lucre's sake. One of themselves, even a prophet of their own, said, "The Cretians are always liars, evil beasts, slow bellies. This witness is true. Wherefore rebuke them sharply, that they may be sound in the faith, not giving heed to Jewish fables and commandments of men that turn from the truth." Now I put this in bold because he's saying here to be of sound faith, not to give heed to the Jewish fables and commandments that will turn you from the truth, because the commandments of Judaism are commandments of men, a collection of rabbis that give their opinion on the so-called oral law. And it says here further, to the pure all things are pure, but unto them that are defiled and unbelieving is nothing pure. There's no pureness in it. But even their mind and conscience is defiled. They profess that they know God, but in works they deny him, being abominable and disobedient, and unto every good work reprobate. A reprobate mind is found in Romans 1:28, and it's a reference to those whom God has rejected as godless and wicked. People that have a reprobate mind, when they were talking about the Jews that practiced Judaism back in Jesus' time, they suppressed the truth by their wickedness and lies. And it is upon these people that the wrath of God rests. This is going on today. Truth has been suppressed for many of centuries. The Europeans and the Catholic Church and the powers that be have suppressed a lot of this truth and knowledge. Remember, Africans and African Americans, we're not trying to suppress the truth. We're not trying to hide stuff under the rug and keep things hidden from the whole world. This was all controlled by the Europeans. The Europeans were primarily the ones that were going around the world trying to see things, like Herodotus and Strabo and Joseph Flavius. They were going around with Socrates. They were going on world traveling in Egypt, traveling to Kush and Ethiopia and all over the place, and taking accounts of the people they saw and writing books and everything else. And in it, they would probably find, archaeological finds, and some of the stuff would be confiscated and taken and hidden and changed, and and so therefore we don't have the real truth nowadays, and it's still going on. So in the Bible, like it says, "For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness." So the Kabbalistic symbols do not come from God, but they're inspired from rabbinical Judaism, which is nothing more than a mix of all the occult practices and mysticism they have borrowed from the pagan religions of the Babylonians, the Egyptians, the Chaldeans, the Canaanites, etc. And we showed you this with the Kabbalah tree of life and the talisman of Saturn, of the hexagram. Therefore, if you really know and do the research, whoever after knowing this follows Judaism and the traditions of their occult practices, especially the Kabbalah, is following their father, the devil, and carrying out his desire, like in John 8:42-46. Because after knowing all of this, doing all the research, a person with sense could not follow this unless they know that they are following into the dark world, and the dark world is connected to Satan. And like I said before, during the time of Jesus, King Herod was also, before Jesus was even rose to power, when he was a little kid and he was a little baby, King Herod at the time was a ruler. I mean, he was a ruler of Judea, and his whole family was ruling the whole area. He had like brothers, and King Herod was considered king of the Jews at the time, because he was a Jewish person. He converted to Judaism. He was a ruler of Judea. Everybody back then practiced circumcision and the laws, and they were considered Jewish. And everybody up in there, they were different ethnicities. They were Greek, Roman, Syrian. That's why you see a lot of people that are so-called Jewish historians, like Flavius Josephus, who appear to be nothing more than the same complexion as a Roman or a Greek, if you look at the statues of Joseph Flavius. Now, it's important, like we talked about earlier, that a Jew is not a descendant of the ancient 12 tribes of Israel, the Hebrew Israelites. That being clear, a Jew is somebody who practices Judaism, the religion of the Pharisees that Jesus despised, and they are not God's chosen people, which the world believes to this day. So, along with moving forward and continuing on with the Freemason Masonic Lodge, you see here all the symbolism. You see here, like I said, with the black checkered floors and the triangles with the sun rays, which we also see in the synagogues of the Catholic Church. And the church, this is a church history museum of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Mormons, that's another word for Mormons, Salt Lake City, Utah. We all know the Mormons are in Utah. And this sign above their church shows the pyramid with the all-seeing eye. Same all-seeing eye that Carlos Santana said was associated with Metatron. And we see the dove and we see the cross. And as you see here, the symbol for the Rosicrucians, you see the Jewish tetragrammaton, the rosy cross, and the hexagram. And you also see the pentagram. And showing more influence of these religions into the Christianity, you see that the Baphomet was used to begin the New Testament in the 1611 King James Bible. And as you can see here, the Baphomet, this is not a lion, it's a goat. Because the goat has horns. A lion doesn't have horns. And the lion's ears don't fashion the way that goat's ears fashion. What is the Baphomet doing in the King James Bible, 1611, in the Gospel according to St. Matthew? The rosy cross. Rose with the cross, Bacon, Shakespeare, and the Rosicrucians. The Rosicrucian symbol is also a hexagram, and we see the sun in the background. Okay, let's see what's going on today with the media in terms of African Americans in America. You see right here, we see a picture of Sierra, and she has a goat shirt on. I don't know why she's wearing a goat shirt, because I'm sure she's not a fan of goat. I'm sure she doesn't have a pet goat at home. And the goat is representative of the Baphomet. The Baphomet, is the horned goat with the crown, and is one of the most powerful symbols in Satanism. In Blurred Lines with Robin Thicke and Pharrell and T.I., at the beginning of the video, they're holding a white pet goat. And people say, oh, no, it's a sheep, it's a sheep. No, but when you watch the clips and when they talk about when they was actually making the video with the producers of the video, and we all know the producers are not all black, they acknowledge that this white creature that they're holding, animal, is a goat. It's a baby goat. And of course, if you see the real Blurred Lines video, everybody in the video, all the women are naked. And so this picture here, you have a naked woman, but you can't see her body, and she's holding a goat. So why in the video is a woman naked holding a white goat? What does that have to do with anything? Doesn't make any sense. But it's there for a reason. Just people haven't picked up the reason why it's there. And the ancient famous saying of the Book of the Law by Aleister Crowley is do what thou wilt. Basically, do what you want. If you read the Book of the Law, you will see that in Aleister Crowley's practices, he learned basically that Satan and demonic forces told him basically do what you want. Just live your life. If you want to have sex with a man, if you want to have, woman on woman, man on beast, do what you want. And that's the saying, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of law, which is in the Book of Law by Aleister Crowley, known Satanist. Here we see Jay-Z with the shirt with the quote, do what thou wilt. Jay-Z knows exactly what this quote means. And you can't pick up this shirt at Sears or Target or Walmart. You can't pick it up at Macy's. This shirt, he had to find this shirt. And because he found this shirt, he knew what the shirt means. He was interested in the shirt, and he put the shirt on, and the shirt is portraying a message. Well, people have to pay attention to what it means. As we know, here is a picture of the pentagram and Lilith and Samael. Samael is another name for Satan. Here we see Lady Gaga. Everybody nowadays, mainstream, knows that when Lady Gaga performs, it's off the wall and it's weird. And here, as you can see here, Lady Gaga has different types of props, different clothes she wears. It's fashioned after the Baphomet, with the horns and the goat face. She's done it on multiple occasions. And of course, you know, whether she likes to do this herself, whether somebody told her to do it, we're still seeing it on TV. And because we see it on TV, it has to be allowed to be on TV. And the people that are allowing it to be on TV are not African Americans. All right, so here we see here Beyonce, one of her videos, she has the Baphomet on two different areas on her outfit, one below and real big with the horn and the goat, and the sun in between the horn, just like ancient Egyptian religion, and you see the Baphomet at the top. You see Kanye West here with his goat shirt, and above you see the Baphomet. The goat is not the symbol of God. The goat is a symbol of Satan and demonic religions. And over here we see famous Marilyn Manson, singer, a known Satanist, and we see him next to the founder of the Church of Satan, Anton LaVey. And as you can see on Marilyn Manson's shirt, he has the horn sign, which is the corner sign. We'll talk about that later. In the horn sign, if you see it right there in the shirt, it signifies allegiance to Satan. It's a sign, a symbol, a hand signal that they use in the Church of Satan when they do satanic rituals. People may say that you're throwing up a sign that says you're cool, like the rockers did back in the day in the 80s, and now they're doing this horn sign in a lot of rap videos with Kurt Cobain and Drake and Lil Wayne and Rick Ross, and you know the list just goes on. And here we see Rihanna's at a basketball game, and she has on some sweatpants that has the Baphomet with the horns, and also the inverted pentagram. Kanye West has the same pants on right here, as you can see. And you see here in this Rick Ross video, you see Rick Ross is sitting in a chair with the Baphomet at the top looking down with the horns and the goat face. Now, there's a Nigerian music artist that signed with Def Jam along with Jay-Z and Kanye West group, and his name is D'banj, B-A-N-J. And back in 2012, July the 12th, he was in Lagos, Nigeria, for a special prayer service. And the prayer service was organized by, it was for different Nigerian celebrities that were in the industry, and they wanted to, get prayer to avert anything ill happening to them, like sudden death. The call was made by the pastor, Pastor Wole Aladion, Nigeria, the senior pastor of Christ Living Spring Apostolic Ministry Church in Ogba, Lagos. And anybody can look, research and look this up. But the senior pastor told this artist D'banj, and he was warned by the pastor not to join or be associated with the Illuminati. Now that he was, assigned to Def Jam and was being affiliated with Kanye West and Jay-Z. And the pastor gave him a stern warning when he talked to him. And he was quoted to tell him, don't join the Illuminati if you don't want to go to hell in fire. And as you can see here, in this picture, he has the triangle necklace on. And a lot of stories about the industry, what's going on in the industry, and as you can see here, when you're in the industry, you're also filled with other artists, and you get to go different places, and you see the pyramid type tent in the back, and you see the artists from the Clips here. So in Satan's world is also into the entertainment industry. As we could see earlier, Kanye West wearing the satanic Baphomet shirt, which is a symbol of the Church of Satan. Back here on Marion, in his video, he's wearing a satanic Baphomet jacket, which shows Church of Satan. In the music video Icebox, we showed earlier Beyonce wearing the metal plate figure, showing the Baphomet in two parts, and then we showed Rihanna in her umbrella video, in her position in the triangle, simulating the Baphomet in her body type. And here you can see another guy, Jonas Ackerlund. He's a director of many popular music videos, and he is on the street wearing a Baphomet satanic t-shirt. Here we see just a regular concert, Jay-Z and Kanye West, and he has the Baphomet shirt on, Kanye West does. And here we see Tyler, the Creator. Tyler, the Creator, has a lot of videos where they have that kind of demonic type voice in the background talking before they start rapping, and he often will have his eyes totally blacked out, kind of like how they show you in exorcism and demonic dark movies, where people are possessed and their eyes are completely black. And you can see here in the corner on the picture, you see a little owl standing right there, and the little owl is just, why is the owl in the picture? What's going on? Like, if I'm taking a picture, I'm not going to say, well, let me take a picture next to the owl. The owl, a lot of people don't know about the Bohemian Grove owl, off the coast of California is a real place. And if you haven't heard about it, it's the place that a lot of the movers and shakers of the world, the presidents, former presidents, CEOs, executive businessmen, people that own teams and everything, they come here. It's all men, and they have like types of rituals and practices and sacrifices. And all this is done under a 30-foot owl, Moloch, just like in the Bible, ancient days. And supposedly, whether they're insinuating, kind of like a ritual where you're sacrificing children, or if you're using props, and you walk around with hoods and stuff, with red and black hoods and chanting stuff, this is not worshiping a good, benevolent God. The Christians, and obviously this is not Christianity. Obviously this is not Islam, and I don't, obviously it's not what Judaism portrays to be their God, not a 30-foot owl. But yet this is what's going on. And the owl, as you can see in the daytime, is 30 feet tall as the trees. And as you can see here, all the men in the picture, and the majority of them are all white. I don't see any black men, because we're not involved in these kind of things unless you're high up. Here you see in the daytime pictures, and you see the platforms in the water. Canaanite god Moloch, the bull, also represented as an owl. And they, back in those days, the Israelites and the Canaanites and the Phoenicians would sacrifice children to the Moloch, and they burn the child, and smoke would come out the horns, and the cries would be simulating the god is like talking and saying stuff. And as you see here in our dollar bill, if you look really close in the corner above the one, you see a little owl in the corner if you use a magnifying glass. Why is there a little owl right there peeking at you on the dollar bill? Here we can see here the Bavarian Illuminati church seal is an owl. Capitol Hill is fashioned in the form of an owl. The Bohemian Club is an owl. The owls all over the place. Drake's new clothing line, Ovo, is an owl. Well, we don't see Drake walking around with an owl on the shoulder like a parrot. And I don't know if he has a whole bunch of owls where he lives at. At least a lot of the videos that I see, I don't see live owls. So why did he choose the owl on the shirt? What's so special about the owl? Here we see the horn hand sign, or the Manu Cornutu. And this is an excerpt from the Satanic Bible. This gesture, this hand sign, is the satanic salute, a sign of recognition between the allegiance of the members of Satanism and other unholy groups. It's also used in Wicca, witchcraft. This hand sign that you may see a lot of people using today. GQ magazine, we see Rihanna with snakes all over her head like Medusa, with the snake reptilian eyes, snake wrapped around her neck, as well as the Egyptian pagan god tattooed underneath her breast on her upper abdomen. Now, I don't know why somebody would want to be taking a picture of this kind of stuff unless you like these kind of things. So the people behind the camera told you to do this. So, a question in the media, a lot of times we see people putting their hands over their right eye, or sometimes they put put like a little circle and make their hand into like an OK sign, put it over their left eye. But why is there so much emphasis on the left eye? It's a lot of people putting emphasis on the left eye if you really start paying attention, but it's not a coincidence. And the key is in Egypt. Osiris was a god of the underworld, as you can see here depicted with the green face. Anybody can research this. He was the god of the afterlife, the underworld, and the dead. As we know, Satan is the ruler of the dead in the underworld and hell. And he had a distinctive crown with two large ostrich feathers on each side, holding symbolic crook and flail. He was the oldest son of the earth god Geb and the sky goddess Nut. And he was supposed to be the brother and husband of Isis, with Horus being considered his begotten son. Now, according to Egyptian myth, Osiris was a ruler and leader on earth. He taught human beings to give up barbaric practices and learn how to grow grain. His brother Set got jealous of his status and killed him by sealing his body in a casket and throwing it into the Nile River. Isis, who was Osiris' wife, sought the body of her husband. But even after she found it, Seth continued to plague her. And this time he was able to get a hold of the body of Osiris and cut it to pieces, and he threw each piece into the Nile River. He even cut his penis off. But Isis faithfully was able to search for these pieces, and she found them. And with Thoth and Anubis, she wrapped them up in mummy's clothes and restored his shape together. And she was able, when she did this, Osiris became the god of the underworld. Isis was then able to find Osiris's penis, and he was able to magically retach it, enabling her to have a child, even though her husband had died. The child would be later known as Horus, the son of Osiris, and Horus would grow to maturity, and he swore to seek a vengeance for his father's death and mutilation of his body. And he sought out his uncle Seth, and they fought in an epic battle of Egyptian mythology. And they also fought over the Upper and Lower Egypt. Horus eventually won, but in the process of fighting his uncle Set, he got his left eye gouged out in the process. And then he fashioned his left eye to some kind of fancy magical eye, and the rest of the gods made peace. So here we have why the emphasis is always on the left eye. And Osiris was killed, became a god, and he had a son, a divine son named Horus. Similar, people will say it's similar to the son of God, and they worshipped him back then as the son of a god and as God, as well as sun worship with Amun Ra and the Ra of Horus. Satan uses ways to deceive mankind of worshiping Osiris and Horus years before Jesus was even born, because he knew the storyline of the prophets and what the prophets had foretold about the Messiah. And he knew that if he could do the same storyline, but make the person Osiris and Horus and using Egyptian magic and sorcery, that the people would be swayed and they would just fall into it. And back in those days, the Hebrews followed the religion of the Egyptians and the Canaanites and everybody else. That was a big religion back then. And from a lot of the stuff that the Hebrews learned in Egypt was the reason why we see the same things in Christianity, such as the cross, which is similar to the Ankh that he's holding right here in his hand, and the different words for God like El that was used back in Egyptian day. Later he became known to have a falcon head. People don't know that. So the Eye of the Horus was eventually, what he was known as, and the ancient Egyptian symbol of protection royal power, and good health, and it was also known as the Eye of Ra. Now, most times when you see the eye, you will either see the right eye associated with the sun god Ra, or you will see the mirror image left eye, sometimes representing the moon and the god Thoth. So, but when Horus's eye was restored, or when his real eye, when he had his magic eye restored, he had his old eye, and because his old eye was gouged out, and he offered it to his father Osiris in hopes of restoring his life. And so when they talk about the eye of Horus was often used to symbolize sacrifice, healing, restoration, and protection. Today in the media, TV, music videos, and movies, celebrities are blatantly showing emphasis on the left eye as if to say, we worship Satan, Horus, and we don't care. Later, we will see the relationship of the pyramids, Horus, and Satan to occult societies and Satanists. Here we see here the picture of the eye of the Horus, and as you can see here, of the inner canthus, which is the inner part of the eye near the nose. You can tell that this is the left eye. Naomi Campbell's house from an aerial view is the eye of the Horus. And the eye is fashioned in some sort of reptilian type of eye with a slit, almost like a cat. And this is her house, folks. Nobody probably even knew about this. But anybody can, with a helicopter, they flew over her house, could see this. Here you have a picture of Horus, known as the Ra god, or the sun god. And after he was killed and became Ra god, he had the sun over his head with the serpent and the falcon head. And he was usually holding a scepter in one hand and the ankh in the other hand. Egyptian times, he is also known as Re Horukthi, which is Ra, who was the Horus of the two horizons. And he ruled, supposedly, all parts of the created world, the sky, the earth, and the underworld. Here you see more pictures of Osiris and the son Horus. This is before Horus died. You see the ankh in the background. You see pictures of Horus after he became the sun god with the sun on his head. You see more pictures of his brother Set, or his uncle Set. And here we see pictures of everybody putting emphasis on the left eye. Different people, Nelly Furtado, Bono, Alicia Keys, Miley Cyrus, Angelina Jolie, Jay-Z. It's just tons of people, too many to name. But as you can see here, everybody's putting emphasis on the left eye. And now it's not a coincidence if everybody's doing it. Somebody's telling them to do it. They're not just, let me just show a picture of my left eye. Even when whether you use a symbol, whether you use a triangle or whether you use the OK symbol and you put it over your left eye, there's always emphasis on the left eye. Lady Gaga does it all the time. Even in the background, you see the all-seeing eye in the pyramid. We know who Lady Gaga is worshiping. So with all of this infiltration with entertainment, MTV, BET, VH1, just regular TV stations, we watch the TV with religion, education, and fashion. These are tools that are used to stray us away from the true God and to keep us brainwashed. And in a sense, these are dividing us, dividing African Americans, dividing the world, but they're really dividing African Americans, and they're rocking us to sleep. So back in the day, the media wasn't as strong, and didn't have much symbolism and blatant Satanism in it being showed, and it wasn't that much sexual immorality going on with homosexuality. And back then, of course, we had dogs being sicked on us because of the color of our skin, because of being black. We were hosed down with water hoses, and they burnt crosses in our yards with the Ku Klux Klan, and they sold our family into slavery, and they hung us and they lynched us because of the color of our skin. They brought us here and they brought us to America and they mistreated us. The same way they brought the Ethiopian Jews into Israel and they mistreating them. And as time progressed, when we got tired and we started to want to come together as a people, from being mistreated for so long, with slavery and then segregation and civil rights movement, people, in the Black Panther Party and Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, we were starting to come together. But then they gave us religion, and they gave us BET and VH1 and MTV and all these different shows and fashion and clothes to rock us back to sleep. Rock us back to sleep. So, and in religion in the church, merchandise is being sold on the street, sold in the church, CDs. You can some churches you can pay your tithes with a credit card. You can call in and pay your tithes on the phone, online payment. Some churches you got to come in, you got to give your 2 years tax W-2s, and you got to have your credit report and your bank statements when you become members. A lot of churches, they hold 4 or 5 different offerings in one service, knowing that the people are poor and the people are suppressed and people are looking for answers and looking for divine help from God. They're not looking to become more poor. And a lot of these mega churches, they're putting out books left and right, bestseller books. Churches got 50,000, 100,000 members, and everybody's talking about prosperity, at the same time taking your money. But this was all talked about in the Bible. It was 2 Peter 2:3, and it says that, "And thou covetest shall they with vain words make merchandise of you, whose judgment now of a long time lingered not, and their damnation slumbereth not." So we got to make sure we don't fall into slumber. We don't fall asleep, because they're surely rocking us asleep. But and again, talking about religion, there's so much going on in religion. A lot of people are not finding the way. A lot of people are being misled and they're being tricked. Marilyn Manson, singer, he, of course, everybody knows he was a Satan worshiper, but he quoted that, "I'm against religion because it teaches us to be satisfied with not understanding the world." We got to understand the world too. We got to understand God. We got to understand our enemy. We got to understand a lot of these things that's going on, because the enemy is using all types of tricks to rock us asleep. Now, in the world of entertainment, there's emphasis always on the left eye. Like I said, the triangle and the devil horn stand. Here you see Chris Brown with a pyramid hat and skull cap, the black pyramid. It's all about these pyramids. LeBron James, he's showing up the symbol sign, which people might say is the Rockefeller sign, but no, the Satan worshipers do the same thing. And as you see in his shirt, he has the hexagram, but as you can see, the hexagram, one of the triangles, has the all-seeing eye and a whole bunch of other little eyes above it. Back in the 1980s, and with the rock groups like Def Leppard and these guys, they were doing the same thing with the triangle. They knew all about that stuff back in those days. Again, here we see is founder of the Church of Satan and author of the Satanic Bible, Ashkelon Jew, Anton LaVey, throwing up the triangle sign in a satanic ritual. And it's interesting that on one of his last words when he was dying on his deathbed, and as his soul was drifting into the spirit realm world, he started, of course, he's going from the physical into the spiritual, and he started to see things. And he said his last words before he died was, "What have I done?" And he said, there's something very wrong. And he kept saying this. He kept saying, "What have I done? There's something wrong, something very wrong here. What have I done? There's something very wrong here." And these are the last words that he said, is that, that what he had done and what he was seeing, it was something wrong. It's maybe he thought it was going to be something. He was going to be waiting to have some huge palace in heaven, or he was waiting to be rewarded with all types of things. But no, something was wrong on his deathbed when he was dying. But Satan doesn't tell you that even though you worship him and he gives you all his riches and everything else, that hell and lake of fire is what you're going to be possibly going into and being greeted by. So here he is here with the cup and the bottom of me figuring it back. And people don't know, but the Rothschilds, they did a joint venture with Robert Mondavi. They began the construction of a pyramid in Napa Valley, California, where the leader and founder of the Church of Satan, Ashkenazi Jew Antoine LaVey, was based out of. And it was known as Opus 1, which means first work. In the front for the temple, which is a winery. A winery was the front for where his temple was at. And as you can see here, the wine of Baron Felipe Rothschild. He has a wine. He has a winery, and so he has wine that you can buy. And of course, we all know that the Rothschilds are a member of the rich banking dynasty who control all the money in the world, in politics and the music industry and the movie industry. They're behind everything. And as you see on some of these churches, you will see the all-seeing eye, the inverted pentagram, and the hexagram, all in the same area. The OK sign being used by a lot of people, a lot of celebrities, and the horn sign and the pyramid sign. These are pictures of the different symbolism and signs that are being shown. Here with Celine Dion putting emphasis on the left eye. Here we have Lil Wayne with the upside down cross and the pyramid with the all-seeing eye inside of it. Here we have Wale with the emphasis on the left eye, and the microphone is covering his right eye. And we have AZ with the pyramid of the left eye, and here we have another artist with the pyramid hat. And here we see Jay-Z's clothing line, Rockaware with the shirt you could buy. It says Masters of the Craft. The craft is Freemasonry with the all-seeing eye and the pyramid, and then hand, gestured with two hands in the Masonic handshake. More celebrities putting emphasis on the eye. John Lennon and the Beatles, they all threw up these hand signals. John Lennon got tired of it. He wanted to change his life around, and he started to talk about it. And of course, we all know what happened to John Lennon. He got assassinated. And as you can see here, Michael Jackson, he was brought into this industry, and he knew about who they were and the all-seeing eye and all these symbolism. And eventually, they got rid of him too. Because he was starting to go against the grain and talk about what was going on. Justin Timberlake, Magic, picture here with the all-seeing, with the emphasis on the left eye. Angelina Jolie, Janet Jackson, another artist with the the Corona horn sign, Melanie Fiona. Eminem with his new album Rap God, he has the horn hand sign right on his forehead, almost insinuating the devil horns when you impose it right on your forehead, right where your head is at the top. Fabulous and Sync, people on TV. Here we have a satanic convention in Morocco, and as you can see, everybody in the convention outside is wearing devil shirts. And as you can see, they are showing their sign that they are known proud devil worshippers, because they got the shirts on with the devil, and they got their horn hand sign. This is in Morocco. Here we have Gwen Stefani. Here we have Celine Dion with the horn hand sign and the all-seeing eye tattooed or drew out on the hand right in front of the left eye. Elijah Wood, Jordan Sparks, Britney Spears, Rihanna, Kim Kardashian, Eminem, Chris Brown, Sierra. As you can see, Ice Cube, famous track star, Jamaican track star, Miley Cyrus, Johnny Depp. I mean, the list goes on, folks. You can see Lionel Richie and Pharrell Williams. It's just even on CD covers. It's all over the place. You can get your, so they joke about it so much, and they show it so much on the media that people are just joking about it. This kid right here is he ordered his all-seeing eye box from the makers of the New World Order, and you can get it in 2 sizes. This kid bought it for $2.11, and he's so happy that he got it. It's like getting a new toy. Now, the all-seeing eye is watching while we are, in a sense, stuck in the Matrix, just like the movie with Neo and Morpheus and the actor Keanu Reeves. Now, invisible surveillance is an insidious form of thought control, and by thinking, you say, well, I don't have nothing to hide, therefore it would do me no harm to be almost in this Matrix world where, they're showing us stuff, indoctrination, like you're in a little bubble, like the Truman Show, and it's all this surveillance on you. If we say this is okay, and I don't have nothing to hide, I'm just an American citizen, I'm just a citizen, I'm just trying to do my thing and just feed my family, work, we are admitting, or mindlessly admitting, that we have an earthly master. So the mainstream news media is a tool of control, indoctrination, manipulation, and by continuing to support their ideas and worldviews, by giving them our attention on the movie screen, TV screen, and everything else, we are volunteering to be a slave to this not so subtle form of mental programming. Because everything we see on TV, we try to emulate, and if we see it enough on TV, we're going to want it. We're going to want to be like that, and we're going to believe it to be true. So if you show things so much on TV, whether it's a lie, if you keep showing the lie, becomes to be truth. And so you believe anything you see on TV, whether it's a plane missing, or whether it's some freak terrorist attack where the buildings get hit by airplanes and then the building falls down and no plane even hits it. Building 7 in New York City came down, no plane ever hit it, and then the TV says, media says that a plane hit the Pentagon, but there's no footage of a plane hitting the Pentagon, and the initial hole was a small little hole, and we all know that when the plane hits something, it doesn't make an impact of a hole. This is all a deception. And as we can see in T-shirts, that say "Obey" with the all-seeing eye, and then we see on a dollar bill with the all-seeing eye, and we see the all-seeing eye in churches and synagogues and in Freemasons. We see this eye everywhere. So it's almost like these eyes watching us. We're in the Matrix. We can't get out. We don't know what these symbols mean. We don't know why we're seeing these symbols. We don't know why we're seeing some of this stuff on TV. What's going on with the world today? We're caught up in the Matrix. We don't even know it. Now, just to kind of point on this, every time we use a credit card in society, so each time a credit card is swiped or your job direct deposits money into the bank, it creates digits on the balance sheets of the banks that are involved with the financial looting of the world today. Now, in the money system, which are controlled by a select group of people, these digits are then multiplied 8 to 10-fold, which electronically by the fractional reserve system. So a lot of this money is not being exchanged tangible money in your hand. This is all done with numbers. And with the fractional reserve system, this exponentially increases the power of these institutions. To participate in this, which we're all participating in it because we all operating under the system of money, we agree to pay this money back with interest. Even the United States of America is paying this money back by interest to the Federal Reserve with help from the American people and the IRS. And in order to maintain a certain lifestyle that we live today, to pay our heating bill, electricity, and cable, and phone, internet, and different things that we purchase when they show us on TV with gadgets and iPhones and new $150 shoes. These are all things that keep us caught in a lifestyle that keeps us caught in the matrix of consumerism. So while we're in the matrix and they're showing us these symbols with people covering their right eye and showing their left eye, and Michael Jackson's pointing to the eye and saying they don't really care about us, like who's they, and we see album covers with Tupac on the cross and Illuminati, and you see Michael Jackson with album covers with his left eye being covered, and then we see that supposedly the person that was charged with killing Michael Jackson, his doctor, is a Freemason. If you look at his chain on his neck, these are like, what's going on? And you see celebrities like Jay-Z and Beyonce constantly throwing up these pyramid signs and these different hand gestures. So I'm talking about the matrix. Work is, we all know work is important and money does pay the bills. However, so many people lose the best years of their lives doing things they hate just for money. Many people are working their lives away, living check to check, just waiting for their heart attack, diabetes, cancer, stroke, kidney failure, fatty liver, back injury, or medical illness that kills their quality of life. We work this 30-year work model, then we get sick and we start going to the doctor, and then it's all she wrote, and we got a bucket list we want to do before we get too old. But by then it's too late to fully live. But the truth about most people today is that we don't have money, nor do we have wealth, because once we lose our jobs, we become just like the homeless on the street. Except the homeless man on the street in America or in the Caribbean or wherever, he has no bills. The only thing he has to worry about is food and shelter. He lives a simple life. But still, in this day, since it's necessary to get by in this world using money, it's best that we get more value for our time doing something we enjoy or working at a job we don't despise. But that's not the case for a lot of people. But, when we work 7 days a week, it's hard to find time to act on dreams or accomplish any goals. It's easier than people may think to live on less money than we believe we need. We just have to be willing to give up things to realize this. This is all part of mental slavery. Just like how we all need gas to get around, especially to get to our jobs, even if it's an hour away. But the question is, when the gas prices become unaffordable, do we choose between food, medication, entertainment, and gas? Same aspect as what about when food gets unaffordable? What about when food is not given to us by the government? What happens then? So when gas is needed to drive to work to make money, what happens when the gas runs out, becomes unaffordable? If you don't go to work, you don't make money, which means you're in big trouble. Most people don't live within walking distance or biking distance from their jobs. It means that their livelihood is dependent on gas, meaning its price and availability. People right now, in this day and age, are having to choose between paying for medications or healthcare premiums to Obamacare or their health insurances, food, gas, entertainment, utilities. We all know utilities are. Therefore, we are slaves in the matrix. The matrix, where this all-seeing eye that you see here on Shakira, all-seeing eye, the necklace, is just watching. It's sad, folks, but it's real. So, to give you another example, as we tie all these things in, is that everybody needs food, and about 50 million Americans or more are currently on food assistance. Now, if the average person, if you get out of jail, you get $200 on a EBT card or a food stamp card, bridge card. Now, so let's say the pack of 16 wings, whole chicken wings, costs around $15. You got two people that can eat 8 chicken wings apiece. So that's your pack right there in one day. Costs $15. Now, if all this couple had to eat was chicken wings using their $200 on their bridge card, so, for most blacks, depending on what's going on, can't have a whole house full of blacks and they're all getting bridge cards under the same address on their licenses. It just doesn't work that way. Maybe unless you're in school or something like that, you have some special need. But of course, for other races, that's different. Other races can get bridge cards easily than we can, and they can get higher balances on amounts of bridge cards, but they don't even need it because they use that to make money off of us. But let's say, moving back, let's say that you run out, this with this $200 at the cost of chicken wings at $15 a pack, you would run out of chicken in less than 2 weeks. That's just chicken. Now this doesn't even include drink or beverages or sides or butter or vegetable oil used to fry the chicken or spices, nor does it include soap, toilet tissue, deodorant, toothpaste, paper towels, stuff like dishwashing liquid and laundry detergent that we all need. This is all part of our hygiene. Poor hygiene equals disease and sickness, which equals healthcare, and healthcare is not cheap nowadays in America. So, with all of this, we're subliminally learning how to be satisfied within the government's or society's matrix that they've put us in. And not knowing this, at any moment, food prices could soar, or the government can cut back funding on food stamps and a lot of other programs, like Social Security and disability, which is currently on the rise as more and more people are filing for disability, and a lot of them are using use the cloak of mental illness. I'm too depressed to go to work. I'm too not right in my mind. I'm hearing voices. I'm bipolar. I'm manic. I'm depressive, and people are getting put on medications when they really don't need it, so that you can have the diagnosis of a mental illness to get a disability check, or a disability physical that's really not there. But this is all part of the matrix. This all can be cut. People need to wake up. We all know that a hungry person quickly turns into an angry person. And when a person's angry, then they start to resort into things like violence. When you don't have no food, you're hungry, you haven't ate for 2 weeks, and your kids haven't ate, and you're going to look to find that food and get it any way possible. Law enforcement is already ready to prepare and step in and take care of this when this happens. And as we know, in society, in America, the poorest people are African Americans and Latinos. African Americans are at the bottom. Moving on with the matrix, we all know around the world, we see people protesting against the government for lack of jobs and education and food, lack of shelter, healthcare, and the rising cost of living. These all are happening right here in America. Yet we continue to work and slave every day, only to be mind controlled at the end of the day by the TV, entertainment, and electronic gadgets, becoming less social, more into transhumanism, like the movies they show us on TV, where computers and technology is taking control of everything. And there's more surveillance now of people than ever before, and we're moving into a system where we're not going to need cash, we're not even going to need credit debit cards, because of the constant threat of people hacking into your bank accounts, your credit cards, your identity theft. And so all these things can be easily eliminated if you have a mark system that is on your body, whether it's biometrics with eye scans or retinal scans or hand scans, or chips or electronic tattoos. So people need to wake up. We've been so dumbed down that we were complacent with our lives, thinking in groups, which is term groupthink. Scared to speak up, scared to boycott, scared to make a stand, because they're too scared about the people that are signing our paychecks, people that are over us. People don't stand up no more for what is right. And the powers that be in America are testing us. They're testing us and seeing how much togetherness and unity do we have in the face of their little tests. Different. I always say that Trayvon Martin thing could have been a test with George Zimmerman and Donald Sterling and his incidents and the media coverage on that, and how African Americans in America responded to that, as well as amongst other things. So many black kids and boys and girls are being shot down in the streets by law enforcement, but punishment does not happen. No types of punishment. So the world is showing that it's okay to cheat, steal, and kill a black person. These kind of tests, they're testing us, and we're not passing the test, and we're like mind-controlled slaves or sheeple, just sheep just waiting to be led to the slaughter when the time is right. And when the time is right, trust me, they will be ready, because they have the National Guards, the Homeland Security, and FEMA camps. Everything is setting the stage for a police state and martial law. These are all the things that are real. FEMA camps are real. Regions where these FEMA camps are located are divided into different regions of America. They're all around us. So with the Matrix, we're just being rocked to sleep and entertained by these entertainers and these subliminal messages that are showing us right in front of our faces with these hand signs. with different forms of symbolisms showing the Baphomet. And as you can see here, you have all of this going on, even in the Catholic Church with the upside down cross, and how the upside down cross is used in satanic rituals. And you see the Pope Benedict and Barack Obama, George Bush and Dick Cheney and Dan Quayle, they're all throwing up this satanic horn sign. If you notice, they're doing it all the same way. They got their fingers positioned in the same way, as if to know that they know what they're doing. Just like when you do a Masonic handshake, you know how to shake. You know how you got to do a special shake. Now, this is really interesting, and a lot of people may not believe this. They may say this is not real. I don't believe this, but a lot of people have admitted that for a long time now, a lot of our presidents are not elected, but they're selected. We may think that they're opposite teams, just like we go to court and the lawyers know each other and they know each other's kids, and they go to lunch, and then after the courtroom case is over, they're outside talking and giggling and golfing. They're on the, they're just making a buck. They're on the same team. They really care, but sometimes they don't. I mean, they really don't care, but then they act like they care. Now, in terms of our government, we're being manipulated in this way too. In this article right here, this talks about a man or a couple in Russia that told this man that Barack Obama was going to be the president. That he told him this 18 years ago, and this was told to him in Russia. And in this article, it talks about during 1992 or 1994, this guy had made frequent trips to Moscow in the process of starting a software development, a joint venture company with some of the people in the Russian scientific community. And this guy, he met a Russian guy, and he had a wife, and they eventually would be good friends. And they met up one time. They met up, and during talking to these people, they started to say, well, you Americans like to think that you have the perfect government, and your people are always so perfect. So then the Russian says, well, then why haven't you had a woman president by now? You've had the chance to vote for a woman president, but you didn't do it. And the general response went along the lines that you don't vote for someone just because of their sex. Besides, if you don't vote for a woman vice president, but you vote for the president and vice president as a whole, as a ticket. Well, and the Russian couple said, well, talking to the American couple, they said, well, I think you're going to be very surprised when I tell you that you're going to get a black president very soon. And this was a lady saying that. The consensus we expressed was that we didn't think there was anything innately barring that. The right person at the right time, ensure America will try to vote for the right person, be he or she black or not. So they go on to say that, what if I told you that you will have a black president very soon and he will be a communist? Now, this is in the article. She said, well, you will, and he will be a communist. One of us asked, sounds like you know something we don't know. That's the other couple saying. And they said, yes, it's true. She replied, this is not some idle talk. He is already born, and he's educated and being groomed to be president right now. You will be impressed to know that he has gone to the best schools. And we all know that, Obama went to the best schools, and a lot of people did not know about Barack Obama before he started running. He just came out of nowhere. And when he graduated, I don't know if it was from Harvard or Columbia, one of his first jobs that he got was with Henry Kissinger. And we all know who Henry Kissinger is. He's a famous Jew that is alongside with this supposed whole, New World Order deal that's going on. And we all know, if people don't know Henry Kissinger, they need to look up Henry Kissinger and George Soros and a lot of these guys. Majority of them are Jewish, and they know a lot of stuff that we do not know. And Barack Obama at the time was a shoo-in to win at the time. And it was also interesting. This is really interesting that during his initial campaign when he was running, he fashioned his platform after the replica of the seat of Pergamon. And the seat of Pergamon is in a museum in Europe. And the seat of Pergamon in the Bible is the seat where Satan dwelleth. And this is in the Bible. If you can look it up, seat of Pergamon. And the seat of Pergamon, which is in a museum in Europe, has the pillars and it has the whole construction, and it's identical to the platform, the Democratic platform when Barack Obama was speaking. And interesting enough, the same platform was the basis for Hitler's huge speech, I think in Luxembourg, Germany. He had the same replica, the same platform of the seat of Pergamon, Pergamos, that was talked about in the Bible, being the seat of Satan, where Satan dwelleth. And when Obama won, they had all types of parties for him. The Boule Society, the Freemasons, they all had parties for him. And here we see Barack Obama throwing up the horn hand sign. And here we see some more pictures of this symbolism with the back of a dollar bill, Anuit Coeptus, Novus Ordo Seclorum, the New World Order. That's what that means, the new secular order. Secular means worldly. And as you can see on the pyramid, there's 13 rows before you get to the capstone, where it has a little all-seeing eye floating above the basis of the pyramid. And if you look at the words Anuit Coeptus, there are 13 letters. If you look at the other side, there's some words too, and these are also 13 letters. Kobe Bryant throwing up the sign. Famous music producers, Cassie, Kid Cudi, Kurt Cobain's, Justin Bieber. If you watch a lot of Kurt Cobain's videos, everybody in the video is throwing up that sign. Every last person, even little kids, are throwing up the sign. And I don't know about you, but if everybody in the whole video, including kids and people in the background, probably was, paid some money to be in the video, if everybody in the whole video is throwing up this sign, what do they even know what the sign means? I mean, does the sign mean have a nice day, peace, we're cool? No, because most black people don't walk around throwing up this sign to each other. When we talk to people, we don't throw up this sign. It's throwing up this sign for a reason. People need to pay attention. Usher and T-Pain, and here we see the rock group. This is the rock group called the Luciferian, and you already know who they worship, because you can see the name of their rock group, and you can see the necklaces they have on, and their get up, and you can see all of them are throwing up the corn hand sign, and they have necklaces with the inverted pentagram, which we all know is a symbol in Satanism. Here we see Wiz Khalifa here with his buddies, and his buddies got on shirts with the goat inside of the triangle. And most black people don't have pet goats, and we don't have infatuation with goats, but the goat represents Satan. And here we can see he's throwing up the horn hand sign. He has emphasis on the left eye. He's pointing to his left eye. And as you can see in ancient Egyptian practices, when you hold your right hand up and you put it on top of your head in this fashion, you're paying homage to the mourning of the death of Osiris. Wiz Khalifa's doing the same thing. Ironically, they took a picture of him and he got his hand on his head just like that. Here you see Wiz Khalifa wearing a dress with feathers and tight stockings, and his coat has all types of symbolism on it. The PX sign, the Chi Rho sign, was used a long time ago before Constantine made it a symbol for the Christ, the Christians. And here you see these other little signs that I showed you on the Kabbalah tree of life and the talisman of Saturn, or the talisman of Satan. All these symbols mean something. If you see some more images of Wiz Khalifa wearing skirts and leggings, like what a woman wears, and just straight leggings. Most women walk around with just leggings, not a man. And no, this new fashion trend with skinny jeans and leggings and skirts is really coming on strong lately, and some rappers are not down with that. Here we see some more pictures of the all-seeing eye on the shirts, and more clothing that resembles female clothing. Because I know most parents are not going to send their male kids to school wearing leggings or skirts. The symbolism is rampant all over the place. You see political leaders, religious leaders, George Bush taking a picture with the Queen of England, and he's just standing right here with the hand sign. Just standing, not with his hands down to his side like most people do, but standing with his hands down with the hand sign. Here we see the same people that's involved in this. They're also involved in these, occult secret societies like the Knights of Malta. Here we see with Nelson Mandela and the Queen of England, and when Nelson Mandela got old, here he is hanging with the Rockefellers. The Rockefellers are Jewish. They're all part of these organizations. We were trying to become independent and not need the white man when they segregated us. In America with Tulsa, Black Wall Street, even in South Africa with the apartheid. But we come back full circle to depend and trust on European Caucasian white man. Sammy Davis Jr., he went into Satanism for a while. Here we see a picture of Sammy Davis Jr. with who? The founder of the Church of Satan, Antoine LaVey. And they're smiling, they're hugging each other. It's a big, happy time going on. Here he is showing up the satanic hand sign. And then he says, well, I don't want to be a Satanist no more. Let me go into something that's kind of maybe similar to Satanism. And he goes into Judaism. And now he becomes known as a Jew. But, here he is over here again with the Knights of Malta robe on. Why does a black man want to be involved in Knights of Malta? Why does a black man want to go into Satanism? Why does a black man want to go into Judaism? Is there a connection or similarities between Satanism and Judaism? Maybe Satanism was too hardcore and it was out there in the open. Yes, I'm in Satanism. Yes, I'm a follower of Satan. No, you can't. If you don't want to be known as that, maybe you go into something where they're practicing the same thing, but it's subliminal, it's hidden. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Here we see the Knights of Malta sign with the swastika in the middle. Swastika was used a long time ago in ancient religions like Hinduism and Buddhism. The swastika is also used with Nazis, the Nazi party. Here we see Hitler here, his camp, his crew, all saluting. In the background, you see a pyramid with the shape of the all-seeing eye, and you see them wearing the Knights of Malta emblem. Mussolini, right here, a picture of Mussolini, Italian dictator. Benito Mussolini, he was good friends with Hitler. Mussolini attacked and tried to take over Ethiopia and Eritrea, and they were able to ward him off. Here we see here the Catholic Church and their buddies. They are wearing the Knights of Malta symbol 2 on their chest, as well as the cross. If you look here at the different degrees of Freemasonry, you will see, like I showed you with the York Rite Freemasonry, that as you go up the ladder, when you enter, you're an apprentice. You get to a fellow craft and then a master mason, mark master, and these different things. You keep going up. You get to the Order of the Red Cross, and you get to the Order of the Knights of Malta, then the Order of the Knights Templar. And as you can see here in this picture, all of the people wearing the Knights of Malta cloak are white people. There's no black people. Sammy Davis Jr. was maybe one of the only ones, and then Mandela and probably some others. Here we have George Bush with the satanic sign, his daughter, politicians, Sarah Palin, people at concerts throwing up songs of praise, throwing up these sign signals. Do they know what it means? I don't know. Here we have some more people throwing the signs. The Pope Benedict, LaVey again, crossing of the hand over the eye with the upside down cross. Madonna wearing the pyramids in the back of her shirt on her jacket. Here we have singer I think her name is Janae Monáe. She, in the background, you see the checkered black and white floors, similar to Freemason halls today.